Good afternoon to each and every one of our almost 70 participants. I'm delighted that you're here. I'd love to talk to you about nucleophosmin-based peptide therapeutics for acute kidney injury. It's my area of interest and passion for several decades. I'm Steve Borkan from the Department of Nephrology at Boston Medical Center. Next slide, please. My main objective as a physician and scientist has always been to improve the lives of my patients. And one of the things that impresses me so much today is listening to my colleagues, and all of us seem like most everyone I've met at BU really invested in improving the lives of the people around us. I thought I could stay in my lab. This is my lab pictured on the left, inside the door, which was labeled with caution, there's radioactivity, and also with a sign that says, keep the door closed. And so I practiced that for over 25 years. I lived behind a fully insulated door. I knew nothing about customers on the other side. I didn't know there was a marketplace. And I wore a secret t-shirt that said pharma is dangerous, because that's what I learned as a house officer, an intern, and a resident and fellow, was that we as clinicians should avoid the pharmaceutical industry. Next slide, please. I really believed that great science would sell itself, and that if I published, shown at the bottom here, a good enough piece of science, that someone would bang on this door with a FedEx envelope, and inside would be $10 million, so that I could pursue in peace and quiet my clinical studies. I was obviously wrong. I have learned subsequently that even good science only begins the journey, and that I could never do this by myself. It would require a team. And many of those good folks are actually, to my good fortune, at BU in the Office of Technology Development. I was issued an official OTD seatbelt, and I would need that because I made several key mistakes. The two most important was that I applied for the wrong kind of patent. The second is that I published the sequence of my peptide before I applied for the patent and learned the term prior art. In defense, I said, but it's my prior art. And the patent office said, we don't care whose prior art it is, you should have patented before you published. This is very important. And the last lesson most recently I learned is that although we have both a diagnostic and therapeutic aspect to our peptide in AKI, acute kidney injury, industry and the customer and the patient are actually interested in the therapeutic far more than the diagnostic. This has been an important lesson for me. Next slide, please. Since I've coupled with OTD, I have to admit that the door is now open. I'm breathing fresh air, and I have a new open door policy. I've also learned a new vocabulary. In addition to the aims that I need to use for my grant applications to the NIH, I've also learned to comply and generate milestones and understand the difference between aims and milestones. I appreciate the difference between composition of matter and composition of method patents, and why pharmaceutical industry is so interested and invested in composition of matter. I also understand that I want to license. That's very important, but in itself is not sufficient. New slide, please. My next steps are to open my eyes and my mind to the customer's needs. As a scientist, there's many things that excite me and many different experimental directions that my lab and I could go. But focus is really critical at this point in my career. And the customer has lovingly been able to guide which experiments would be the most valuable. So this has been really important. Why? Because I want them to make an economic leap of faith with me. That means that they're going to hold my right hand, close their eyes, and jump off the cliff with me, because I need millions of dollars to actually become empowered to innovate forward, to take my invention and truly make it an innovation that has impact. I need action, and I realize that's as important as science, but I can never take the action alone. I need my ever expanding BU team, and thank goodness I have them in OTD.